A free key has been provided for this review. This does not affect my views of the game in any way. All opinions contained herein are mine and mine alone. Towering robots and giant monsters. Over the last few decades, these themes have clashed in video games, tabletop games, and more recently, even big-budget Hollywood blockbusters. Hello, I'm Adam the Fanatic, also known as Mario Fanatic 15, and today we're going to be looking at Mechs v Kaijus by Tenacious718 and Doble Punch Games. Please keep in mind that this is an early access title, and as such, any information contained herein is still subject to change. Mechs v Kaijus is a single-player tower defense title. With its name, the way monsters crawl across the battlefield from right to left, and the fact it's a tower defense game, at first glance, it may appear similar to Plants vs. Zombies. And while such would not be the worst comparison, make no mistake, these are two very different takes on the genre. Right out the gate, one of the first things you'll notice about the title is the crisp, well-detailed sprite art. The namesake Mechs and Kaijus alike are each intricately designed, and the cityscapes aren't that bad either. Until the battle begins, at least. As the fight goes on, trees and structures alike will topple as the Kaiju march forth. However, as things continue, the dying Kaiju leave a bit of blood on the ground. While I don't mind a bit of detail added to the death animations, with the sheer volume of enemies in each stage, it's often only a matter of time until much of the surface is a big, bland mess of red, and this simply isn't enjoyable to look at. Of course, as eye-catching as graphics can be, what really makes or breaks a game is how well it plays. Much like a typical tower defense, Mechs v Kaijus will have you buying, upgrading, and selling various towers, including walls to block incoming attackers, grinders that shred Kaiju as they advance over them, anti-air turrets to deal with those pesky flyers, artillery cannons to rain death from afar, and more. Your first and most basic tower to attack with is a Tesla coil. It shocks and zaps Kaiju, nothing fancy, though, oddly enough, despite effectively being a giant bug zapper, it does absolutely nothing against flyers. You'd think this would be common sense. What kind of game has Tesla coils and can't even hit flying units? Oh, right. A pity that I can't just mass apocalypse tanks my way to victory here. Wait a minute. I can? That's actually an option. Yes, those are definitely apocalypse tanks. 2 cannons on front, AA rocket launchers on back, even has a little Russian flag emblazoned on the side. It's an apocalypse tank. They call them Armageddon tanks in-game, but they're apocalypse tanks. And massing them works about as well as you'd expect. It's a great idea early on, but as you face bigger challenges, you'll find relying on any one tower too much is a weakness that enemies will take advantage of. But towers aren't your only means of fighting back against the hordes of monsters that will be attacking Pokyo. You'll have direct control over the Odin, a mech with long-range bullets that can later be swapped out for explosive or armor-piercing rounds, as well as auto-firing surface-to-surface missiles. On top of this, you'll also have the ability to fire a large salvo of missiles, drop a small platoon of tanks, call on a wing of drones to shoot down enemy projectiles, and even fire an icy beam that will create temporary walls that briefly freeze any Kaiju that attempts to cross them. These specials all start out fairly weak, but each can be upgraded over the course of the game. Besides the Odin, you'll be able to bring 2 AI-controlled mechs to help you. Once again, they're initially quite weak, but once upgraded can be formidable aids in fighting off the advancing monsters. Each mech represents a different country and has a different fighting style. The German mech fires explosive shots, the Chinese one is a melee expert, and the Japanese one is basically a Gundam. What else could it be? Okay, so I know I'm probably going to get a bunch of comments about EVAs and Nightmare Frames and Gao Gaigars and Megazords and what have you, but I'm a very casual mecha anime fan, so I'm sorry. After each mission, successful or otherwise, you'll gain access to 2 resources. Firstly, you have gold, which is used to repair and upgrade your mechs. For the Odin and allied mechs alike, you'll be able to increase your range, rate of fire, damage, armor, etc. Keep in mind you will have to manually repair your mechs between missions, otherwise any damage they've taken will carry over into the next level that you begin. Additionally, you do have the option to sell research for gold. However, I find that it's much easier to run out of things to buy with gold than it is to run out of things to research, and there's no option to do this in the other direction. The other resource you'll be collecting is research. With this, you'll gain access to new towers, unlock additional abilities for the Odin, increase your income rate and cap, upgrade all sorts of things, and even recruit additional mechs to swap in on your team. There's quite a bit here to research, which in many ways is a double-edged sword. While it's exciting to be able to unlock new abilities, it's quite slow going at first, especially with the income cap, which applies to all levels except survival. And since many technologies give very brief descriptions, it can be difficult to tell what's worth researching first. While you can go back and replay levels again and again to garner additional income, the fact that it feels like you almost have to grind to experiment with the tech tree is a mark against the game. You're certainly not going to be making any huge leaps of progress by playing through levels without repeating them. Perhaps there's a specific tech route you could take to go through the entire game without having to grind for resources, but there's really no way to experiment with such, as once you've researched an upgrade, there's no way to deactivate it without starting your game over again. And to top that off, you only have one save file. Starting a new game will overwrite that. The plot of the game is quite straightforward. You're given a short comic sequence to get you into the game, and after that, a quick briefing before each level. It's not much, but then again, how often do you play a tower defense game for its story? Not often, I'd wager. It does what it has to, it links the levels together coherently, rather than feeling like a random bunch of maps with no connection, and it really doesn't need to do more. As it stands, the campaign is 10 missions long, with a handful of optional side missions. There is a bit of variety in the levels, so it's not all just the same defend against the horde mission every time, but this variation is honestly minimal. In one stage, you have to defend several houses. They're far more fragile than the wall which is behind them, but this effectively just means you have less room to work with. In the end, with the exception of the final level, the differences between them are largely inconsequential beyond enemy types and general difficulty. On the subject of difficulty, do be warned that this is a very tough game. Right off the bat it warns you of this, claiming that easy is not that easy, and making similar remarks about normal and hard. I have nothing against challenging games, but make sure you know what you're getting into here. It also doesn't help that the game really throws you into the deep end right away. There is a tutorial, but it only shows you the barest of necessities to get started. Anything beyond that, you're expected to figure out on your own. All in all, Mechs v Kaijus is an interesting title. It has a number of different ideas that it's trying to get to work together. At its core, it's a tower defense game that wants to encourage players to be more active in the late stages, rather than building up your towers and then just sitting back as you watch things unfold. In these regards, I compare it not to Plants vs. Zombies, as the name and layout may first lead you to, but rather to Revenge of the Titans, a tower defense game that had a similar goal in mind. Unfortunately, while it does achieve this goal to a degree, it also feels like it detracts from the strategic aspect of the game. Instead of being focused on planning, it becomes more of an action game. And while I have nothing against action titles, when one boots up a tower defense, they're generally looking for more of a thinking game. The repetitive nature of the game, especially grinding for upgrades, really does hold Mechs v Kaijus back. As this is an early access title, I will not be giving it a formal review score at this time. I do hope to see it improve with the impending release, which is set to add more levels and even a couple new mechs as well. For the time being, I can recommend it to those who enjoy the theme and are looking for an action-oriented game with just a splash of strategy thrown in. However, if you're on the lookout for a brain burner, I'm afraid I'd have to advise you to look elsewhere. Thank you for watching my review, hopefully the first of many. Please like and subscribe, and if you have any questions, comments, or opposing points of view, please put them in the comments below. Thank you, and have a nice day. This review was commissioned by PC Game It. Many thanks to them for providing the key. Click on the link in the description below to read reviews and see gameplay clips from titles on Steam. There's really only one thing left to say. Godzilla!